Welcome to Sivako, the road to Avatar. My name is Shaun Alexander, and I'll be your guide to the world of Pandora and beyond. And today I have a returning guest. So, returning guest, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. Nati Kameya. I am Albert from the Avatar podcast. I hope you're all doing well out there.
And we're at the most exciting time of the year. It's not just the holiday season coming up. It is the finally we're getting into the last release, last week until the release of The Way of Water.
We are, and I want to use that, that phrase of holiday, not just it taking place during the holidays, but I put this in my recent article, which is now under review for being shared by the Canberra Times here locally. I basically talked about the levels on which Avatar's operating. I said artivism, altruism, altruism, that kind of stuff. I'll get into that later, but the main thing with right now is that the whole like the collectively exhausted human spirit after pandemic and war and intense political times a couple of years back, like we're all so exhausted, so we actually are all going to take a giant holiday to Pandora together, just to recuperate. A bit of R&R with the Metcaina, like that's the human spirit is just going to collectively just like get on our ikrans and fly to hang out with the Metcaina. Like it's operating on that level, Sean. So are you feeling a bit of that, like like that feeling of having your bags packed and like ready to go on this like holiday to like an alien beach? Like you're feeling that?
Yeah, definitely. It feels that way that yeah, I feel like we can shed the load a bit in a way to just be like, oh, don't worry about other things going on in life, the world for a bit. Have a 3 hour break and yeah, just have a story that you can immerse yourself in without thinking about well, this is the thing. Avatar's such an interesting one because you are thinking about real world things going on through the movie, but it's taking you to a new place to experience that and maybe give you a new perspective on it.
Yeah, I mean, where you're that's beautifully and eloquently phrased, but it'll be a bit more than 3 hours for you and I. I think we're going to cross the 24 hours each. We're going to see this thing. How many times is that? So three times. I'm going to go at least six times. So maybe that's a whole day spent on
Yeah,
Pandora.
you're getting close.
Yeah, something like that. But because and that's not from like a irrationally fanboyish place. It's simply because we're at a workshop. These each what is it? Each frame takes like a data render. There's literally it's impossible to take in the level of detail they've put into the world and the accuracy of the simulation, particle simulation and all that stuff. Also the layers of the story, like simply folks people listening out there, like one viewing is like absolutely not enough. You may as well watch three quarters of a movie. Like Avatar is only complete if you really do those book those return trips. At least to me. How about yourself, Sean?
Yeah, it's definitely one I'm well, I'm planning to see it a few times. It's going to be really interesting to see it in different formats. So my plan is I'm going to be seeing it in the Dolby 3D, but I also want to make sure I see it in IMAX because the IMAX screen seems to be showing a little bit of extra footage either end, which will be nice to get a bigger scope of what's happening in some of those scenes.
Hmm. No, definitely. But now I have to like first of all hold a mirror up to you of that amazing opportunity that you yourself and an avatar guy. Um, yeah, man, I'm so happy for you and what an amazing. So yeah, can you walk me through kind of what that experience was like for you guys?
Yeah, so Albert was mentioning this. This is something that me and Avatar Guy, we were over in London on Monday, which would have been the oh god, I can't remember what the date was, 5th or 6th of December. So a few days back, earlier this week, and there was two events going on in London. The first of which was Forbidden Planet was having a sign-in with the young cast of Avatar as well as John Landau. Absolutely fantastic. I got there way too early. I got there at like 9:30 in the morning, and no one else showed up until at least midday. So I was sort of standing there by myself, having a little read of a book for a good few hours. But it was really good because there was a chance to like meet a bunch of people who I've been chatting to online for ages. A few of the guests from the podcast were there as well, so I got a chance to meet them in person for the first time. So yeah, it's kind of nice to like finally put faces and to names and like yeah, meet people in real life. And I think that's going to be a lot of an experience for a lot of people as well. Like they've made friends online via Avatar, and now they can meet them in person to see the movie together.
Absolutely, yeah, and I saw that, Avatar guy, AG, whatever we're gonna end up calling. We're all in a year's time. We're all gonna have like fully integrated like Navi names. We're just gonna call each other by that. It begins, but so he had his poster there that he had a few of the cast members sign. I believe also John Landau. And did you have yourself like any kinds of encounters with the creators themselves?
Yeah, so it's a chance just to sort of do a little sign in with them. It was great because I because I was the first one there. I got to meet them sort of like first and everything like that. They were fantastic. You could really tell. You could tell they were, like, so excited to be, like, doing this, and you could tell they weren't really didn't feel daunted by it, which, this is, like, a big experience for anyone to deal with, you're about to be in, like, the biggest blockbuster of the year. It's a lot of pressure, and they seem to just be enjoying themselves with it, which is great.
Oh, I'm so loving that. So, just for the listeners, I suppose we're talking. That would be Trinity Jolie Bliss and Bailey Bass and Jamie Flatters. I don't know if
Yeah,
Brighton would have been there.
Brighton wasn't there, but Jack Champion was as well.
Jack, absolutely amazing. And then, well, that's so great, man. And yeah, how did it feel to, actually, let me. I suppose I should ask. So, James Cameron and John Landau, they weren't there.
John Landau he was there at the signing, and, James Cameron wasn't there, but, uh there was a Empire VIP club, which is the Empire magazine for VIP club subscribers. There was a live Q&A that you could go attend, and I was lucky enough to be able to attend that. And that was another just fantastic experience. It was just an hour's worth of Jim chatting about his whole life experience and little tidbits about the way of water. And it was, one of those things where you're just sitting there and the hour like flies by like you have blinked.
Yeah, I'm sure it would have, man. And some of the things that are coming out in terms of quotes, which we're going to segue into, I'm sure, about the absolutely stellar reception from the first screening impressions. You're seeing all kinds of folks posting their videos who have been able to see it. I love those. I think John Roca did his out the theater reactions and the Schmodown people. I can't remember his name. Yeah, Christian Harloff. Yes, um, and what I want to say is we are. I had a sorry to get a bit esoteric, but I had a feeling earlier today, Sean, of feeling like we're in a moment in history. Like the film coming out already feels like history. And that's the closest I could get to it, because there is something so rare happening with this film, which I actually hope um, finds its way into board meetings post Avatar 2, where they can say, well, Avatar 2 took their time, so let's maybe put that conveyor belt rushed out the window, rushed out the door filmmaking aside for a while, because we can definitely, all of us, point to films that have sort of succumbed to that kind of cookie cutter filmmaking, which we talked about a bit last time I was on this wonderful show with you. And I'm really feeling a shift coming, dude, in terms of a return to like deliberate and well thought out and well planned storytelling. I mean, people are there's a feeling from these people coming out of these cinemas of like, oh, this is what I've wanted something extremely well constructed that I when how this is another tangential example, but you know how when you're asked to hold an infant, like there's a certain way to hold a baby to make sure that you don't hurt its neck or stress it out or anything. And the only way to do that properly, like with an audience, it is to learn the technique, to move quite like slowly and deliberately. And there's a feeling from everyone. I see the same look in everyone's eyes of like a child being held properly. Like the audience is having their intelligence respected, their sense of what constitutes a movie meriting this level of wonder and excitement and the feeling of an art form truly evolving, like the Jurassic Parks in 1993 and Star Wars in 77. That is what film to me would was always associated with, which was that pioneering spirit of like, what can we do next? And it's so great to feel it come back to life. You know, so many of these trailers have had this heartbeat in the background, and I think that is also operating on a certain level of this regular cadence. And again, we talked about this stuff last time, but I guess you can tail us off into some of these social media impressions, man. Talk about them arriving like a drum beat and a heartbeat, like they're consistently coming. Like people are saying it has absolutely exceeded the original.
Yeah, so literally Tuesday just gone, we had the premiere in London, which I know everyone was so excited to finally know that it has actually screened to the public instead. Because it's sort of, yeah, it's still, even to this day, it still feels a bit of a pipe dream to be like, oh, yeah, Avatar 2 will come out. And yeah, now at this point, there's no going back. It's there. So yeah, we've had the first reactions, and a lot of people were getting like flown out to London, or I think there was screenings across America as well. It seemed like I don't think everyone was in London for it. So yeah, we've seen some our first social media reactions. No full reviews yet. That's not until next Tuesday. But yeah, some of the ones that sort of jumped out to me. We had Eric Davis from Fandango saying, "Happy to say, Avatar: The Way of Water is phenomenal. Bigger, better, and more emotional than Avatar. The film is visually breathtaking, visceral, and incredibly engrossing. The story, the spectacle, the spirituality, the beauty. This is movie making and storytelling at its absolute finest." Which is, that's surely for anyone who was already kind of excited about the film, a review like that kind of covers every
Yeah.
basis for what you want to hear.
Oh, absolutely. And you can see again in these social media reactions, like there's an urgency to want to articulate what they just experienced. And I posted something on our Instagram of it was actually Cliff and Philip, and it was Radio New Zealand asking them what their reaction was, and they said it's just impossible to describe. And it's very simple. That's not hyperbolic or superlatives there. It's because Jim has said, no, we went to the next level with, like, take, for example, the water effects, right? So we didn't just go to the next level, we went 5 levels up. Like, that's a quote that's going on around. That's also in the production notes, which I read on our 30-second episode. And it's a genuine case of this isn't just people, you know, fawning over something. It's simply because you haven't seen something like that. And I think Cliff Curtis said, like, I just felt like I was there because everything registered to me as real. As when, for example, if you and I were on a beach right now, when you're on a beach, there's a thing that happens where it's like everything's very bright and glary, and you can kind of notice these very specific idiosyncrasies about like what it's like to look at someone standing on a beach. And when I see Tuktire, like, Tuk, like Trinity Jolie Bliss, I see like how her feet like fall into the sand and how she kind of squints that way. And I think it's going to do what Jim has been talking about, which is like, we want to suspend that disbelief, and that's our job, is for that to happen organically. And we don't expect anything in return for you for that. For us, that's square one. Immersing you is square one, and then we only expect investment via our characters. And John Landau is saying this stuff as well. Have you been listening to some of those kind of little blurbs? I tried to post as many of them as possible.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I find those sort of ones, those interviews with the cast, so interesting because you will just like hear little tidbits, which every cast member has a different experience anyway. But to hear, yeah, every cast member sort of having these glowing reviews of it at the experience of making it as well, which you know Jim's not got a great reputation a lot of the time for previous works in terms of like actor director relationships. I know a few people have said they wouldn't work with him again, but I think yeah, like now he's at the stage of life where he's a lot more mellow, and he's more than happy to sort of like make this the experience that actors want to come back to again and again.
Yeah, I agree. Another thing that came to me from this, it's relatively short, but definitely check it out. We've posted it ourselves, but on the Instagram. But go check out this Radio New Zealand, back and forth. The reason why I find it so, um, so intriguing, it's because they're both so, like, they're both actors, but you can tell that they're not even trying to fake how excited they are, or to play it cool or whatever. And Philip said, like, as soon as I saw the film or the clip, I felt like I was there. No, he actually said I felt like I was back there, which I found to be so intriguing because as they're on the stage, sure, they'll probably see on a screen somewhere maybe a rough render. There's the untextured models. They might see themselves moving a little bit, which I actually think, Sean, that as the production goes forward with these other films, that mid performance kind of render that the actor can see, like, I actually envision in about 2030 or so that an actor will be able to just fully see themselves, like, completely rendered, almost like a fully rendered shot. And but that's my tangent. But anyway, like, the idea that the actor says that when I saw myself on screen, I felt like it almost like it tricked his brain into thinking he had gone to the ocean, and that he had gone on location. And his familiarity, this is going to get a bit Lynchian, but say you met your doppelganger, Sean, and he moved exactly like you, and the nuances, the way that you kind of like scratch your nose or whatever. Like, Philip had a genuine moment of being disarmed by witnessing himself and on screen and saying, "Wait a minute, that's me. I did that. Like, I went to that beach." And then he has to check himself and say, "Actually, no, I was in a volume. I was underwater. It was a controlled environment." But I love that it's fooling even the actors who were there, who would probably have the greatest access to the purest behind the scenes, like knowing how the sausage is made. If they're having that moment themselves of having, being fooled in the best way possible, that suspension of disbelief. I've never seen that look in an actor's eyes, and that's the actors. So just imagine what's in store for audiences, Sean.
Mm. Yeah, that's it. If actors are feeling that way, and yeah, like there's always this like kind of worry that there might be the disconnect between for actors, because obviously what they see on screen is obviously is themselves, but the fact that they could still see themselves in that performance is great. Because you always think, oh, does the VFX change that for them? Do they not feel as connected to it? But I think that connection has stayed for them, especially for the young actors. They feel still so embodied in those characters and in those roles.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'll add to what you were sharing earlier in terms of, I think we're in the sharing of social media impressions. So on Slash Film, one of the ones I recommended in our DMs. So Avatar: The Way of Water, early buzz. James Cameron does it again in visually stunning and emotional return to Pandora. And we have here from Courtney Howard, Lula Maybell on Twitter. James Cameron and co. deliver yet another riveting, awe-inducing masterclass in world building with Avatar: The Way of Water. Immersive, emotionally engaging, and epically entertaining, it's a thrilling ride. CG artifice melts away where we're just watching the characters' humanity steer. And Courtney's you are um, a commentator after my own heart, because and a human being after my own heart, because I she stretched that word count to try to articulate as much as she could in that. And I completely agree. The idea of, as we talked about, the artifice being so advanced now, Sean, that it is melting away, that it is starting to fool the eyes. I mean, we're calling them the infamous hands sloshing in the water shots that present in trailer 1 and 2. It's actually Jake, fastening his hand to the Tsurak harness, and many times I just see a human hand. I see my mind is being fully tricked, you know, by the authenticity of that particular minutia. Have you had any similar moments yourself with any of the clips where you're like, actually, that's simply real to me, not even hyperbolic or anything, like it's just real?
It's that shot particular, I think. And you know what? I remember, I think it was this week that there was a that little behind the scenes preview of some of the actual like physical props and that. and they showed that physical prop, and the footage was shown next to it, and the melding of like reality and virtual reality, or like the VFX, is so seamless that it does make you question, like, is that a point where, is this still real? Or have you just taken the physical object and then added the VFX over it with the water and with the Navi hands, or is it just that impressive that you've been able to replace it all because of how far the technology has come to be able to, yeah, make this look so immersive.
Beautifully expressed. And I want to also, again, like we did this a bit in the pre-show, just for the listeners' edification. Where podcasters, we need to kind of usually keep a pretty steady kind of energy level, um, and not too many variances, with the exception of maybe a couple of episodes where we're watching a trailer and we completely lose it. But I just want to like, just everyone listening now, whatever you're doing, first of all, obviously make sure you're following Shaun on every possible platform. And I've elected myself as his like Oceania region promoter. So I will completely derail an episode of his own show to tell you this is one of the finest podcasts, finest Avatar podcasts out there. Um, but okay, so after that pause has been taken, I need to everyone take hands energetically just right now with the moment we are in terms of the filmmaking landscape. And people like, I'll just read this social impression to give an idea. So this is Kevin McCarthy. So James Cameron's Avatar: The Way of Water is a monumental filmmaking achievement, striking a great balance between technical and emotional. The 48 frames per second 3D experience features some of the most jaw-dropping immersion I've ever seen. I felt like a kid again watching T2 for the first time. Astounding. So my parallel for that is watching Jurassic Park. And I want to that's why I kind of energetically, everyone taking hands or whatever, and like taking a moment to really relish these moments, which don't come around that often. In fact, they seem to be becoming rarer, but that's something that you can fully give yourself permission to feel, which is that a couple of filmmakers decided to, in the shape of a film, you might think it's just a film, but look at all these comments. People are saying this isn't a film, this is an experience. It's actually an art form taking the shape of a film, but using the cocoon of that film to be renewed and to be capable of brand new things. Sean, after Jurassic Park, CG was never the same again. Like a certain level of fidelity was became the new benchmark. And that happened after the Avatar as well, leading into Thanos. This is what's happening right now. Are you feeling that in the air, Sean?
Definitely. I feel this is something that's been, we bring this up on the podcast a lot, and I imagine as well a lot of people go into this discussion that it feels like we're at a point now where filmmaking can go two different ways a lot. I think it can follow the sort of route that it's been taken these last couple of years, and I think it's showing that people are becoming a little bit less interested. The box office numbers are down, like ticket sales are down, things are, people are maybe feeling a bit stale on what we've been seeing, or we can like take the examples of things like what Avatar is trying to do, what Top Gun Maverick has tried to do, and a lot of other indie films like Everything Everywhere All at Once have tried to do, in that it's bringing new fresh ideas to films, it's being creative with the medium, and showing there's ways to both be responsible in terms of like what you are portraying on film, but also to show your understanding of what film history is. Where did we come from? And I think I saw a fantastic, like, I saw a tweet from, he's one of my favorite directors, Guillermo del Toro. His tweet about Avatar, to say, I say it again, Avatar 2, seeing it, you realize how long it has been since you saw and this is in all caps, movie.
Yes, I was saying the same thing. Like, oh my god, I'm cannot wait to, dude. Yeah, Guillermo del Toro is like again another man after my own heart, and I after his, because I think about that. Like, yeah, I had that exact thought, that exact impression that I'm feeling even ahead of watching it, is that watching Avatar: The Way of Water will make you feel like you haven't seen a movie in 10 years or 13 years, like a movie, you know?
Mm.
And 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 yeah, man, like when's the last time? And Sean, be honest, we are, we're a bit older, and the world has gotten a lot more, I guess you would say, entitled, and there's an immense saturation of content that, we're spoiled for choice a lot of the time, and people have this scroll past attitude where they can be like, oh, there'll always be something else, you know wanting, you know bang for my attention. But when's the last time that someone said, Sean, I'm not kidding. This is something you have never seen before, and you need to go to the cinemas to see this. Like, for me, it's been at least 12 years. It's been at least since the last Avatar to me. How about you?
It's such an interesting situation for me because in the time between like the first Avatar coming out and this one, I've you know that my life has been completely different to what it was. As a teenager when the first one came out, and now I'm 30 now. I am and I've gone and I've studied film at university and done I've been trying to do a whole career in film and things like that. And it's sort of crazy to see this is the first time I'm seeing this sort of moment for myself. We've had things like Star Wars coming back, and that was obviously like a big cultural moment, but it wasn't I don't think it's interesting because I think that cultural thing was there always for like the Star Wars for the Avengers Infinity War Endgame, but it wasn't the it wasn't the technical, and it wasn't about like what Avatar can achieve and what it means and what it's able to be as a story and as a technical feat. Star Wars and Avengers doesn't have that to it.
Yeah, and I'll say this: what it can be argued that we're discussing is the difference between product and art. And I have here in my little spiel: artainment, artivism, and actualization. So obviously art, activism, and actualization, all delivered through universally accessible, like Trojan horse entertainment. Like, you think you're just going to see a spectacle. I add here, like, you can just splash on the surface of it, that's fine, or you can dive deep and really appreciate the deeper philosophical layers, even like the layers of world building, etc. So it really, and that's what an ocean is as well. It is all of those layers. You can stay right on the surface, you can go deep, as deep as you want. Um, but that's really the thing that is setting, this event. And I love that, and I'm fully behind that terminology of like the motion picture event of a generation. Like, that is a mic drop, and I anytime I see that, I love it. I think the weekend, actually, he recently shared that in a post of his, and it is absolutely accurate. And that's what I mean. And when you talk about generation, that evokes also, passing from one to the next, and leap forwards in, generations of, I don't know, iPhones or consoles. Sean, do you know when we go from a PS3 to a PS5, or so P3 to PS4 to PS5, there's a little moment that you get excited of, like, okay, so what are we going to be able to do now? And I had that feeling when I saw the Unreal demo. And Unreal is I don't know if they're using it for Frontiers of Pandora, which hard pivot, dude. In like tomorrow, like this by this time tomorrow, a new trailer for Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora is coming out using the same assets, probably a little bit down res, I guess, for inclusion in a PS5 game, but that people are sleeping on that game, man. I'm actually fully predicting cast on stage in LA with Jeff Keighley. That you have to take advantage of this buzz to promote this game. But yeah, so we can take a brief little mini tangent about Frontiers of Pandora if you like. Are you stoked about it?
Yeah, this is one I had an episode so early on in this podcast about Frontiers of Pandora, and along the way I was like, yeah, sure, I'm sure we'll end up with like another trailer or something, and it's just been like dead silence since then as well. Like we have had no new information aside from the fact that it got delayed, and but overall, I am very excited for it. It's something that I know I'm going to get to when it comes out, and I can't wait to see what they do with it. And I just hope that it is able to, provide that experience people are looking for, because people want to be able to ride their banshees there. And I mean, I with what we've seen from the Way of Water so far, I'm sure people are going to want skim wings. They're going to want to be able to
Oh,
ride a
give me that
Tolkien.
Surak. Oh, yes. Can you imagine, like with a, we're really, really getting close with the Quest and Apple's rumored 2023 headset. Very soon, VR is going to be and AR is going to be ubiquitous in the house. Like just like you turn to your, when you see your VR goggles, you chuck them on the same way as you have like I don't know, like a toaster or whatever. It's just going to become something that every household has, and you're playing Frontiers of Pandora. Let's say 2024 when they've like worked out a lot of the kinks, maybe even done like a graphics refresh, leading into Avatar 3, and who knows if they'll allow world sharing or whatever, that me and you can just like just yeah, like we'll sync up same way we sync up for podcast recording. It's like let's go and explore, you on your skimwing, me on my banshee or whatever. And like that's very much the hype that I have for Frontiers of Pandora, and I am totally comfortable with them, embracing that Cameronian spirit of like only release it when it's ready. Sean, you remember the the quiet years? Like I can't even count the amount of times I checked out and reread. I read it over and over again. The Wikipedia article of Avatar 2. Did you do the same thing, mate? Just to see if there were any updates?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was one of those things where every so often I'd just come back and be like, "Oh, okay, let's see what's to do with Avatar right now." And a lot of the time, there wasn't anything new. It was like maybe there's the odd picture here or there, but for the most part, yeah, like we were just sort of in the dark, and yeah, life. I feel like a lot of people during that time, life went on. You just sort of had that in the back of your mind, and you'd be like, maybe someday I'll come back to this. And guess what? Yep, we're getting to that point now where yeah, we're gonna get back to that. And I can't remember. I think it was another podcast I'd listened to from I think it was the baseless speculation, which I'm a huge fan of. Um, they're really great guys over in Australia. So, and they were talking about, there's people who, when they finished watching Avatar the first time round, they got the Avatar blues. They they had that post Avatar depression, and then they just had to, carry on with their life for the next 13 years. And guess what? Now we're about to immerse ourselves back in. What's it like for those people coming back and being like, wait, no, this is it. I'm back again. Like I've got more to experience, more to live now.
Yes, that's right. And what's also very touching that in these comment sections you'll see people saying like, "Oh, here's to here's to those of us who didn't survive the 13-year wait," because that's a fair
Mm,
amount of time. A lot of life can happen in between them. The kind of yeah, family. John Landau talked about this in the production notes. Is the one universal for all of us is family, and um, the first film operated on that level in terms of Jake finding his family with the Mantikaya, but this is a literal family. I highly suggest folks go download the press kit. Just Google press kit Avatar: The Way of Water. Read the production notes, which it was so fun reading those on episode 32. Extremely enlightening. What is it, like Jurassic Park, Fifth Element, all of these DVDs. I remember just having the production notes as a DVD extra. And I want to say this, dude, Cameron gives me hope that there is a distilled like essence of the blockbuster, and we are seeing like a certain level of billboard representation of like Good Morning America, of like music videos. I actually remember like that evokes the 90s, that evokes this pinnacle time for filmmaking. And I think Cameron, Ray actually had a moment. I don't know if the missus had this for you, but we were listening to the trailer for Avatar: Way of Water, and we heard the trailer voice, Avatar, like that. And I could have sworn that I hadn't actually heard that particular voice. And Ray was like, "Oh yeah, they must have found him and gotten him out of retirement so that so that he could, give these like yeah, I don't know, like early 2000s, late 1990s flavor to these epic, like like I don't know, man. Do you remember back then, like the Titanics, the Phantom Menaces? There's just something where the electricity is in the air about something that you're just. It is absolutely preventing me, a 34-year-old. I've been shot at in the army. Bunch of heavy stuff have happened in my life. I should technically be not as impacted by this. I should be hardened. I should be a bit wearier of the world. But I think you can speak to this too, man. It is directly accessing that inner, 11-year-old Sean, 11-year-old Albert,
Mm,
and we're feeling that absolutely unfettered joy and positivity like nothing else had happened. Like we like as though no years had passed at all from that quintessential time of you know, like be all end all filmmaking. And it's really inspiring, dude. And I'm so glad that, I'm so glad to be on this journey with you, man, because you really we don't have any notion right now, even 7 days out, of just how crazy this is going to be. I've made my official prediction. I know you did on your show,
I feel
three
like I need
point
to
three.
change my prediction already.
3.3. I'm saying 3.3, and it's gonna be, yeah. Like, so we're watching the it's watching it for the first time on the 14th, episode 33, and I all throughout I know that I'm not going to be able to help myself from just saying that over and over because, like I said, this is going to actually shock a lot of people. I mean, like a kid who's never eaten like a slice of cake before, and the parent like films them, and they're like, "Yeah, this is my baby having like a kiwi for the first time, or like a piece of chocolate for the first time." Dude, a lot of these kids nowadays, like they've never experienced this before.
Mm,
Like this level of sit down and shut up in a loving way, like sit down, shut up, and like watch this like actual showcase of an art form evolving. This isn't just, oh, let's go see the latest Marvel movie, and even then you can hear in someone's voice of like, oh, okay, oh yeah, Ant-Man, oh, another explosion. Like there's a sacred, yeah, and again, this is in the production notes. They're like, there's a sacredness to what's happening right now with how much they've been able to capture. I'll just get really randomly technical for people. So on the first film, they had standard definition cameras pointed at the actors' faces. So that's like maybe 720p, right? Like,
yeah,
or
I mean,
yeah,
maybe at a push 1080,
at
but
a push.
that's a
Yeah.
push.
And now, obviously, I have an 8K. People have, can have 8K cameras in their pocket. We're talking two of those cameras pointed at Zoe Saldana's face at all times with a streamlined rig, pure performance capture, like one for one, like again, 5 times. You hear that often. People saying it's not just taking it to the next level; it's 5 times higher. So I hope that I've impressed, in my little spiel here, where I'm not letting you talk. I apologize. Of just the enormity of what's ahead. And hey, I will let you. Do you want to revise your figure? Let's go. What do you
So,
believe will be the final gross at the end of its first run?
so right now, I had the box office prediction episode was my last one, and I had
Yeah.
it at, I think it was 2.6, I think,
Okay.
billion
Okay.
total run.
Nice. Yeah.
I think. Oh, see, I don't know if I want to wait till after that first weekend. Maybe I'll wait till after the first weekend to see if I want to revise it.
Okay.
I think
All right.
2.6 is a very like impressive amount, considering
Yeah.
nothing's hit 2 billion in a long time now since the Avengers.
Yeah. I'll tell you this. There's going to be something that happens to of the ilk of Awa has heard you kind of thing, which if you think about the last act of the first film, folks, you remember it's a certain amount of them get together with mounted banshees and they put up a resistance, but it's very clear that the IDA outnumber them. And then you just see this disproportionately large amount of Pandoran fauna like rushing to help, right? So what's going to happen, I believe, psychologically, and it'll be interesting. Maybe we can get psychologists on our shows to break down how the human mind works this way. But when you're in a group setting and there's a a sort of avalanche effect occurs with people wanting, like, we're seeing this a bit with the World Cup nowadays. Like, we want that goal. Like, we all become of one mind and of one pulse. And when we start seeing, oh wow, we're about to break the record, we're about to cross three, people are gonna literally just get even um flippantly. I'm not, dude, I will not put it past some people to just simply flippantly want to go and see the film again multiple times just so that they can know that they did it. Like, we've pushed it historically over that 3 billion hump. And I just think, timed in with, as I said, us going on this R&R after a couple of really intense years, Avatar did as good as it did as a first time IP without any recent conflicts or recent intenseness around about that 2007-ish, 8-ish. I mean, you could say recession, but nowhere near some of the subconscious stuff that humans need art and entertainment to reset. Like, we need that. And because we're so desensitized because of our devices and like watching stuff at home, we haven't really had that full satisfaction. It's like someone never fully drinking their fill or eating their fill for 10 plus years. So when they get a taste of, as I call it, real food, they're going to go crazy. Sean, they're going to be like, this is food. I haven't had food in 10 years. Like, that's how I feel. And I don't think I'm irrational there. I think that's actually pretty backed up by a couple of different historical precedents and very solidly measurable factors. I mean, are you with me on that?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see that reaction, whether the audience. And you know what? One interesting thing is, I've seen a lot of the critics come up and say, "Oh yeah, I've seen it already, but I've already got two more tickets booked." Which I think that there's a few people I've seen and said they're already seeing it and they're planning to see it again, either another time or another couple times, because there's things that they either missed from the first viewing, or there was things that they felt like they want to focus to be able to focus on next time around. I remember reading one, and it was basically saying that he was he was watching it and he got too distracted by a fish, so he felt like he missed the plot point, which I think such an incredible, like, sort of moment to be like, yeah, like, how are you supposed to focus on so much when there is so much detail? And I think a lot of audiences might feel the same in that they'll be like, "Okay, I've seen this." Maybe, maybe families are like, "Okay, I wanna go see I'm taking my kids to see this. We can't do this all in 3D for the first time." Some of the kids don't like 3D, so we're gonna watch it in 2D the first time. They go see it and they're like, "Man, great experience, but I feel like it's so beautiful. I want to see it in the way that James Cameron wants me to see it. I want to see it in that 3D, and then they go back again to see it in 3D, and they get a whole different experience that way.
Absolutely. And I can actually see a situation where, say, take for example, a family goes, there is that moment of, wait a minute, this is more than my eyes actually physically cannot take in this level of detail on one viewing. And it simply is a matter of, I just there has been so much put on the screen that we want to have the full experience, right? And James, he said this thing of it's a 3 hour long film. I think an interviewer was like, okay, well, obviously, what if people have to, way of water, so to speak, they have to go to the bathroom, kind of thing. And he's like, oh, feel free anytime. You can just come back, watch the movie again, and see what you missed. And I'm like, I love that, like, well earned bravado on his part of knowing that to have that complete experience. Yeah, like, it's for me, it just doesn't register as and again, listeners who might be, wondering, like, even though we're passionate, Sean and I, with our podcast and stuff, we're still rational human beings. We're not dipping into that fanboyism to say this, but when you literally are experiencing something that you physically can't take in um, on one viewing, then it prompts a second and third. And I've mentioned, I think, in our chats or whatever, like the 5 times we're going, one for each film, and then capping it off with a sixth at IMAX. So, but I like that you've got a couple of different formats too. Are you bringing different friends to each one, or are you going to go with the same pack?
So my first viewing, I'm taking my wife to, so that's gonna be. You know
Beautiful.
what? This will be a perfect time to announce.
Yeah.
I'm going to an early multimedia screening of Avatar: The Way of Water.
Oh, wonderful.
This is my first time like announcing it to
Oh,
people. I'm going to be
wow.
seeing it on Monday, the 12th of November.
Oh,
December. Sorry.
oh, stop it. I'm seeing on the 14th. I thought I was seeing it. Look at you,
Uh,
mate. Well, I'm
so
high-fiving you. Well done.
that
I'm so happy
means
for you,
I
mate.
will have my social media reaction on that Monday night. So that's gonna be well Tuesday for you, and then by
Yeah.
the time the embargo lifts on the next day, I'll have a review and possibly spoiler review out. So if people are interested in finding out deeper details,
Uh-huh.
yeah, I will have those for you. So that's kind of that's exciting for me. This is
Wow.
what I wanted to be able to achieve with this podcast is to be able to be able to attend an event like
Oh,
this, and
I'm
I'm very
so happy
pleased
for you.
that I was able to. Yeah, I was invited to one of these events. So I think you know what, this is a great chance for us to do our final little thought. You know what, let's get our final thoughts on,
Yep.
yeah, like what do we think is gonna, what's it gonna feel like for you walking out of that cinema next week?
Oh, can you go for I've been chewing up airtime, so go ahead and then
All
I'll go
right.
after you.
So for me, I am excited that I'm gonna be able to walk out of that cinema and feel like not only as like my desire to have more stories from the world of Pandora to see more of the Sullys and more of this whole story Cameron's made. I'm excited that there's not only just more story already, but there's going to be even more possibilities afterwards. I don't want it to
Mm.
feel like a closed book at that end, and I don't think it will.
Mhm.
It will feel like there's still things to be explored again, because that's how I felt like when I left the first Avatar. I felt like there was more that I wanted to see, and I'm sure I'm
Mm.
going to feel that way again.
Beautifully expressed. Also, again, folks, this guy's economy of expression. I am so envious. As you can tell, I'm a bit of a doddering kind of roundabout speaker, and you're so direct and just shouts out to you. Okay, so my turn. I'll go.
Hmm.
All right. I don't think I'll be able to leave the theater physically because by then I'll have transformed into a tulkun. As you know, my life goal is to become a tulkun, a 300,000 kilogram tattooed cetacean. So what I mean to say, what I mean to say is, I'll probably be glued to my seat and not want to go. I'll probably want to see it again right there and then on the spot. But in all likelihood, there's actually a bias. I don't know if you've experienced this or looked this up or a phenomena. Have you ever, Sean, left a film s- so impassioned and excited that you felt like you had one of the actors' faces plastered on your own? Have you
Oh,
ever felt
so
that?
this is a thing that I get a lot of the time, and this happened a lot when I was at uni, where I would see a movie and I would leave, and I'd feel, the vibe of the movie. I would feel it within myself, and yeah. So, for example, the one that always stood out to me was Whiplash. When I saw that the first time at the cinema, I had that energy about me that both Miles Teller and J.K. Simmons had. This sort of like manic. I was that determined energy they had, and I think that's some. I know this is an experience that a lot of people get. Yeah, and I'm sure it has a proper term. Is it? Does it have a
It
real word?
does. It does. I'll bid everyone listening forth on their googling journeys. I don't have it on me now, but it has something to do with having created just across the span of a story a genuine empathetic connection where you feel so connected to them that you feel like them. And I had this. I think one of my earliest examples was like Prisoner of Azkaban. As soon as I left, I felt like Sirius Black. I anytime I would move my face, I felt like Gary Oldman for some weird, sort of fascinating reason. For me, I'll be 9 foot tall by the time I leave this theater, man. I'll be. It might surprise me, but I might feel a bit Quaritch like. I might feel a bit, but probably Tonawari. I'll just be Tonawariing around the house. I will accept no challenges to my authority. I'll just be crouching on all the furniture. No one will be able to stop me. But obviously, I'm jesting there. But I'll fully permit myself to feel that childlike excitement. It's all cleared with Ray. She's going to feel the same way. We already know ahead of time that this is going to be very emotional for us because Ray's mum, who passed in February. Big Avatar fan, and we watched it together. Little did we know it was one of the last films we'd ever see with her. So her spirit is kind of contained in that sort of cinematic Avatar space to an extent. We know there's a lot of themes of motherhood in this one, and yeah, and lots of, as you see in the synopsis, like the tragedies they endure. So it's going to be very heart wrenching, and I think, with the weekend's music likely playing over the credits, I'll probably, yeah, straight up be in tears, I reckon, man. And a 9 foot tall, in tears, very happy, Tonawari face wearing, immensely honored and happy to have seen this art form of filmmaking evolve, and the promise of that multimedia across, games, series like Avatar. Like, he wants to expand this, and he's already talked about people taking that mantle. We have a member in our tribe, Sophia. I keep saying you're going to direct 6 and 7. He's talked about 6 and 7. So, Sean, are you ready to basically make this is your career now? I hope you know that, right? Like, it is, dude.
Oh, I mean, look, if people want to listen and keep me if they want to keep this podcast, want to hear it again and again and want me to continue with it, I'm more than happy to keep going with this, because this has gone from something that I did think would be a 6-month project. It was Road to Avatar, and yeah, it's starting to get to a point now where I'm like, no, this is growing beyond that now. I need to continue this because there's going to just be so much to talk about, and I feel like it's going to expand even further as well, as a way to just not only talk about Avatar and James Cameron, but also just about filmmaking in general and the beauty that it can make you feel and how it can, yeah, influence your way of life. This has been such a journey. This
Yeah, dude.
not only just for my podcast, but for your podcast as well. You have been running
Yeah.
your podcast for how many years now? Is this one your one been going on
This
for?
is so since 2015 from the very start, but 2018 when we started getting into gear doing the countdown and stuff. So either way, it's a long time. But dude, yeah, I like just giant hugs across the podcasting waves. Obviously, this is the last time we'll speak before, seeing the film. Next time we speak on a podcast, I dare say it will be after. And giant hugs to you and the missus from Ray and I. Have an amazing time at the cinema, dude, and cannot wait to catch back up. You on my show, me on yours, whatever, man. It's the journey has begun. It's continuing. Let's do this.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you everyone who's listening. Albert, do you want to just quickly do a quick plug to let everyone know where to find yours? Obviously, you got to let the audience know.
Well, first and foremost, you're exactly where you need to be on Sivako podcast. All right, on YouTube and podcasts and services. But yeah, for myself, it is you want to go Avatar Show on Twitter. We are Avatar Podcast on Instagram. You can search now. We just got added to Amazon as well, Amazon Podcasts, Spotify, and Apple. Just search the Avatar Podcast. Our latest episode is called "Making a Masterpiece." It is me reading through the official production notes of Avatar: The Way of Water, so you can check that one out. And but yeah, we're most active on the Instagram, and you'll see me regularly sharing Sean's content and generally wishing him and his the very best as we go along on this journey together. So yeah, man, good vibes, and I'm truly so pleased that you asked me back on. Looking forward to the next time.
Yeah, can't wait. So yeah, thank you everyone for listening. Enjoy the last final week of
That's
non-Avatar:
right.
The Way of Water, and we will see you on the other side with, yeah, next episode will be my Avatar: The Way of Water review. So I will see you all then. Goodbye.